Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alice Newa. I'm a Malawian girl, but I live in Taiwan. So I was a student in Taiwan for 2 years, and now I've been working in Taiwan for a few months. So I teach English in Taiwan, and I get a lot of questions on my Instagram, like how can I get a job in Taiwan, or especially obviously a teaching job in Taiwan. So I'm gonna make a video about the basic requirements and how to apply for a teaching job in Taiwan. So I'll be looking at my laptop because most of my information is here. So if I'm looking this way, just know I'm looking at my laptop. So the basic requirements, right? Number one, you need to hold citizenship from a recognized English speaking country. So that's very important. So this means English is an official language in your country. It has to be official. If I Google right now, it has to say English official language, which means you are taught English in school, or you're taught in English. Basically, English is the means of teaching, and also at work you speak English. So that's very important. So this means most countries do qualify to teach English in Taiwan. But I would say the US, Canada, UK, Ireland, South Africa, Australia, or New Zealand are more desired in Taiwan. For some reason, these are the big countries in Taiwan that are desired. But it doesn't mean if you're from the other countries, you cannot come to Taiwan to teach English. You can. For example, I'm from Malawi. And it's not part of the big 7 countries. But I can still teach in Taiwan. I can still get a visa because my country is still officially an English-speaking country. Number 2, you need to hold a bachelor's degree. Very important. I don't think you can teach without it. You need to have a bachelor's degree. So it doesn't have to be in education, but if it's in education, it helps. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in education. It can be in whatever, but it has to be a bachelor's degree. It's very important. Number 3, you need to have a clean background check. Okay, that means your police clearance check has to be clean, and it has to come from the government. For example, in Malawi, you have to go to Area 30 to get it. So once it's cleared and your background is clean, that's fine. But it has to be valid for 6 months, like for the past 6 months. So if it's not valid anymore, you have to apply for another one. And number 4, I would say you have to hold a TEFL certification. So this just means you need to hold a teacher certification, right? So when you get a degree in teaching, I think you're given this certification by the government. But if you don't, for example, I don't, you can get it online, or you can just Google and find it near where you stay. So a TEFL certification is just a basic teacher certification that shows that you're qualified to teach. So some schools require it, some schools don't. It depends, but it's very helpful to just have it. So I would say it's important to have a CV, obviously. So in your CV, just include the experience that you have. If you have teaching experience, include it. If you don't, it's also okay. Just include it. I think what matters most are your qualifications. So you have a CV, you have your passport. It needs to be valid. It needs to have at least 6 pages, and it needs to not be expired, obviously. So your passport is also very important. And yeah, in short, I would say degree, passport, TEFL, CV, and come from an English-speaking country. So those are the basic requirements. Okay, so there are 2 major agencies that people use to apply for teaching in Taiwan. So number 1 is Teach Taiwan. So that's an agency that you can use. Just Google and you find it. And they also have their own requirements, so you have to check what they need. So that's Teach Taiwan. And number 2 is Phoenix Group Asia. So that one is also good. You can use that agency to teach English in Taiwan. Just go to their website. They have all their requirements. And most of the requirements are the ones I already said, but they might also have their own requirements. And once you apply, to these agencies and maybe they like your application. Now you might need to provide a teaching demo. So that's you showing that you can teach, right? So it's a teaching demo. You can discuss with them what they need, or just make up your own teaching demo. You can YouTube how to do it and just do your own demo. You can do it in a classroom, or you don't have to do it in a classroom. Just you need to do some research and see how to do it. So a teaching demo is required, and you also need a soft introductory video. So in this video, that's when they can see how you speak English, right? How you express yourself, your fluency. So that's very important, your pronunciation. So that's very, very important. So you need to be able to express yourself, speak freely, just be free and speak well. That's quite important, very important. And then maybe you can do an interview. So in the interview, I think there are some basic questions, so you can Google them. But in the interview, they also want to know you, like get to know you, your personality, your interest, and they'll ask you which counties in Taiwan you'd love to stay. So it's important to also do your research and find out about the counties in Taiwan, right? And where you would like to stay and why you want to teach in Taiwan. It's also important to know those things. And then if you do get the job, you have to apply for a visa, right? So when you're applying for the visa, it's important that you have money in your account, because the visa, they check, one of the requirements for the visa is a bank statement. So they need to check how much money you have in your account. And you also need to have a flight reservation. It's also very important. So you don't need to book a flight, just reserve a flight so that it can be easier for you to get the visa. And obviously visa requirements differ from country to country, so I'm not going to say much about it, but bank statement and flight reservations are required. So now I'll talk about my experience. So for someone who is not from the seven big countries that I spoke about, it might be a slightly harder for you. I've heard a lot of people say, oh my God, I've been applying. I keep getting messages of rejection saying, no, we want people from these countries. So it might be a bit harder. I would say keep applying, obviously. But I would say my experience was a bit easier because I am already in Taiwan. So if you're already in Taiwan, your chances are higher, because schools don't want to go through the process of bringing you into this country, right? Buying your ticket and all those things. So if you're already in Taiwan, even better. So for me, I didn't have much experience teaching English. I don't have a English teaching certification, but I was able to get the job because I had some experience in Taiwan. For example, I worked as a teacher assistant, I worked as a tutor, I worked as a teacher for a while. So that's why I was able to at least get myself through to get a job, at least to get into an interview and then get a job. So if you are from other countries that are not part of the Big Seven, I would say it's easier if you are already in Taiwan. So some people, I don't know about this, if it's the best way, but there are some people who come to Taiwan on a tourist visa, get a job, and then change it to a work visa. So I think this works if you're from countries like the US or whatever, but countries like ours, you might have to go back home and then apply to get back into Taiwan with a work visa. So you have to be conscious about those. Do your own research. I would say do your own research. But if you are here in Taiwan as a student, it will be easier for you. I've seen a lot of people from Malawi, a lot of people from Eswatini, Gambia, and all these other countries that teach English here. So it's possible. What makes it easier is being in Taiwan already and having some sort of experience. So in my experience, I graduated and I started applying. So I didn't use any agencies. What I did was I went on Facebook, I just searched groups, teaching English in Taiwan groups. So I would search every day, every night, send applications. And obviously, when I was sending my applications, it was around February, and that is not a time when they are hiring teachers. So most of the jobs I found were like part-time, and I had already graduated, so I couldn't work part-time anymore. So it was a bit harder for me to find a job right away, because obviously I didn't want a part-time job, I wanted a full-time job. So I just kept applying. I sent to each and every application that I saw, but I got an opportunity to teach in a cram school, which is where I teach now. So there are three kinds of teaching jobs in Taiwan. There's public schools, and then there's Bushiban, which is a cram school, and then there's private schools, which are mostly international schools. So in public schools, teaching English has stricter requirements, because the requirements are set by the government. So the government needs you to have a teaching license from your home country. You cannot teach English in a public school without a teaching license from your home country. In public school, you tend to earn around 1,800 US dollars up to 2,500 US dollars. So that's the range. It might be more, it might be less, but that's just the range. And in Bushiban, so Bushiban doesn't pay as much as the other types of schools, but most English teachers in Taiwan usually start at Bushibans, because students aged between 4 to 15 attend Bushibans after school hours to learn English. So there's so many Bushibans in Taiwan. In a Bushiban, the salary ranges from about 1,400 US dollars to 2,500 US dollars, but obviously it's up and down. It varies depending on your experience, the school that you work at. There's so many issues, but that's the range, right? And in Bushiban, you tend to work in the afternoon. So you might work from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. So that's a Bushiban. And in a private school or international school, the jobs at these places are more competitive than other schools. Even though it's like that, you have a lot of responsibility and work. But the international schools offer English teachers in Taiwan a higher salary and better benefits. So for example, in international schools, you can earn up to 6,000 US dollars. So that's why it's very competitive, but also it requires a lot of work. I would say, if you want to teach in Taiwan, take initiative and do things by yourself. For example, go on Facebook, search Teach Taiwan or Teaching English in Taiwan. There are so many vacancies. You can send to each and every vacancy that you see. Keep sending by yourself, and then you can also use the agencies. I'm sorry, there's noise outside. And you can also use the agencies, Teach Taiwan and Phoenix Group Asia. But you have to be proactive by yourself. And if you are from the 7 countries, chances are you're going to find something. If you're from the other countries like me, keep trying. Don't give up. Just keep applying.